Welcome to UNAM Radio 97.4 FM. My name is Martin Nafuka, and welcome to this special program of the Activated Talks podcast in collaboration with the UNAM Radio. As we are all aware, this month is the Suicide Prevention Month, and the campaign on suicide prevention aims at reducing suicide rates and doing away with stigma and pointing out to the fact that suicide is preventable. With me today in studio is Wimpie. Wimpie, how are you? It's nice to have you.
Hi, Martin. Yeah, I'm doing well, and you?
Awesome. Yes, Wimpie, the country's suicide levels are one of the most alarming in the world, and particularly in Africa, if I'm not mistaken, second behind Africa. In the country, particularly, the number of the gender which is doing the most suicides are men in the country. So I just, first of all, before we start with the questions, just to get your perspective on the suicide levels in the country.
Yeah, I think if I can just connect with what you said there. Namibia is currently fourth in Africa. So the first three countries, number one is South Africa, then it's Botswana, then it's Zimbabwe, and then fourth place is Namibia. When it comes to the statistics. But what is alarming is that the whole Africa is above average when it's compared to the average of global average, that's 9 per 100,000, according to the World Health Organization. So it's quite an alarming thing when it seems like Namibia is a small country, because if you compare it to South Africa, the whole Namibia is basically less than Joburg alone.
Definitely, in terms of population.
Yeah.
Wow, thanks for these very interesting stats, Wimpie. I just want to know, because you have your history with suicide as well, I just want to find out what led you to carrying out the suicide prevention campaign?
Yeah, I think when it comes to that, it's mostly people want to know what's going on and where does the event started off. But I'm a 9-time suicide survivor, and I think about five years ago we started with the suicide prevention in Namibia. Because if you look at the figures, you will see that since 2014 up to now, we basically grow with 100%. When it comes to the people who died by suicide, and that's not the attempts. So there's so many things that I can associate when it comes to suicide. And I think that's the place where we try to help other people. I say it so many times that the moment when your pain become purpose, that's where you can help people when you go through your own journey. And then you get to a place where you can also be there for some other people and also said, I know how you feel.
Wow. Thank you for that response, Wimpie. So I just want you to tell us about the issue of suicide in Namibia, just to extend on the stats that you have already given and maybe some of the leading causes of these alarming rising levels of suicide.
Yeah, Martin, you know what we see in the weekend, and the statistics of Namibia was being released. But so often when we hear that statistics, we can also say that's what they know about. That's not the right statistics that they can give. Because the moment when they report that somebody died by suicide, it becomes a statistic. But they say for every successful attempt, around about 25 just suicide attempts. So if you look at the statistics that they give of 679 people that died in the last year to suicide, we talk around about 12,000 attempts. And it was quite interesting when they released that in the newspaper by saying 1,500 people tried to commit suicide. So I speak to a doctor that was working at Katatura Hospital, And he said to me, he had at least 8 people a day that try to commit suicide. And I don't think that we know what's happening. So part of our campaign is to make it visible for people, that people can understand how big the problem is. And that's not only figures we read in a newspaper. It's somebody's friend, family member, and that's the part where we so often struggle with that. So when we look at the face of suicide don't have a face. So often people think it's because of, it's always people who are sad, always people that don't enjoy life. Yeah, in some way it is, but it's not visible. And what happened over years is, you see in the generation that we live, you will ask people, how are you doing? And they tell you, okay. And you believe them. But they said the face of suicide can be the happy one that around you with all the jokes. It can be the one that seems like have everything together. And all those things is things that we don't pick up, the signs of suicide. And I know the first thing, when we talk about suicide, everybody wants the signs of suicide. But when we look at the face of suicide, it's something that happened around us, something that happened in our friend circle, family circles. And that's what we don't see. Suicide doesn't discriminate between age, gender, ethnic, or any other form. And the thing we hear so many times when we help people is the fact that the same thing come out where they said, I haven't seen this coming. And I think we don't have to be in denial about that. We must get to a place where we become honest with ourselves, where we can also be open about ourselves and see how we can find the journey in that. So as part of the statistics that's not so often been talked about, is that was published last year in the newspapers, that 25% of Namibians struggle with mental health.
Wow.
And they said that it can be doubled to 2025. So it means if it's 25% and it double, it's 50% by 2025. And that's where most of the stuff of suicide also is grounded in mental health.
Wow. Thanks, Wimpie, for that response. We just want to find out, what are the leading causes, or what is that one thing that leads to a person to decide that suicide is the one option that they can take?
I think so often we had a great discussion today with also one of the people that work here at UNAM. And one of the things that also contribute either to mental or addiction is trauma. And most things come out of trauma. And when you look at the whole picture of suicide ideation and thoughts, is that there's so many things contributing to that. And when we look at the effect of trauma, or as the psychologists will always talk about the underlying issues, is something that as we grow up, we never deal with stuff. We never face the issues. We just try to bury that and move on. And in that, it leads to mental, or it leads to addiction. And if it leads to mental, then addiction become a coping mechanism, or even it can start with addiction and it grow into depression and then to suicide thoughts. But a lot of things that contribute. Some examples is financial difficulties. 2 years ago, about 2 years ago, it was COVID. Everybody believed it was the end of the world. COVID contributed to a lot of mental health issues. And so often we hear, even when the government talks, is that they said mental health or suicide started in COVID. It started before COVID. It was just escalating. But then there's financial difficulties. One of the big things with young people is relationships that didn't work out. And then one of the big things in our country is unemployment and poverty. That can also play a big role in the sense of you losing hope and you don't have anything to live for anymore. and then it seems like suicide becomes an option. So even if we look at schools, that is not confirmed statistics, but around about 4 out of 5 high school learners think about suicide, which means it becomes an option, because why will you think about something if it's not an option? And how longer you think about that, how easier it becomes an option.
Wow. No, I just like when you emphasized on the hopelessness part, when people lose hope. Maybe we can just touch on that, maybe just a little bit. What is it that leads to people losing hope, really?
The first thing that I can tell you is, I say it so often, is the fact that you, the moment when you look around you, negativity is for free. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to ask for that. You get it for free. So even in the morning when you wake up, and even the day, there's so many negativity things. And if we don't invest in the positive side, by also trying to find hope and find meaning in life, the only option that you have is the negativity. And if people talk to you, they will easily break you down instead of complimenting you. They will, if you just think in your day-to-day living, how many people encourage you to achieve something? How many of your own friends will motivate you to achieve something in your life? Because even sometimes, as I said, especially when we look at men, when it comes to the suicide part and the mental health issues, is that we grow up in a society where we've been taught that men don't talk to other people because then we look weak, as if we cannot handle our problems. And it doesn't help at all, because there's no law that we have to say that men are not allowed to talk. And what you also observe over time, it's not that men don't talk. They talk to the wrong people. So, for example, if you have relationship problems, you will talk with your friends, and they all have relationship problems. If you have financial problems, you talk to your friends, and they all have financial problems.
True.
And they're the best one who can guide you through the process, but it doesn't work for them, but they expect it to work for you. And all those things as we reach out. But the thing is that the people that we reach out cannot help us. And then we get to a place where we said, I try so many options, but nobody can help me. And that's not the truth. The other thing is, men will easily reach out to women and talk about stuff with women. But if you look to the girl side, they are more in touch with emotions. They are more easily open up to anyone or to a random person and talk about the stuff that bothers them. And that's one of the difficulties in a relationship, is when girls want to talk about stuff, men said, you just make issues about everything. And if we get to that place where we can get in touch with our emotions, we don't have to be emotional the whole time, but we have emotions. I say it so many times when I work with young people. If your girl drop you, then you will tell the friends, I don't care. She can do whatever she wants, but tonight when I go to bed, I cry my pillow wet, and nobody sees that, and we do it in silence, but I pretend to be the strong one. And one of my journeys was when I discovered that people will never fail in the eyes of God, but they will fail in the eyes of the community. Because there's a community that's putting the standard out there. You as a man have to have a job. You have to be the provider. You have to be, and there's so many have to be. You have to have a car, and you have to have a house. And we feel like we fail in the eyes of the community. And especially when it comes to that, is men also go through issues. Men also go through trauma. We didn't skip that part of life. And we also have to unload the pain or speak about certain things just to get help. And also, as we call it, debriefing about life issues. And so often when men try to talk about stuff, even if you come to your friends and say, I don't feel like living, I don't like life, they will tell you, let's forget and let's drink and forget about that. We all have a bad day. But it's more than one bad day. A bad day becomes later a bad week and a bad month. And still nobody will pick it up when it comes to the signs of that. So it's a really complex issue. But there's so many things that we also said. It's never too early to find help, but it can be too late. Because we so often try, and we don't see that we get through that. But we also have that proud of not seeking help because I will make it. I will try to get some other ways. But if I become honest with myself, I get to the point where I realize I'm not okay. I don't get this sorted out. I don't know what to do next. All my resources has been depleted. And that's the place where we can still reach out, where we can still ask somebody for help. Just ask the right people the right questions and they can help you.
Definitely. And are there any signs that lead up to suicide? Are there any signs that one can pick up to say that if the other person is suicidal or that I myself am probably suicidal? What are the signs if there are any?
If I share with you the signs of suicide, you as listener, quickly check in on yourself and you will see how many of the signs is general stuff that you feel like or you talk about, or there's even some behavioral stuff. So the first thing is talking about wanting to die, great guilt or shame, being a burden to others. And this is the part where we so often feel like we don't have to live anymore, we don't have a place, we don't belong. And then when it comes to feelings that you also have is the emptiness, hopelessness, trapped or having no reason to live, extremely sad, extremely anxious, agitated, or full of rage. And I think so many people, if you also have an anger issue, anger is a sign of underlying issues that's not been dealt with. So people can just look at you and then you want to lose your temper for no reason. If you look at changing behavior such as making a plan or researching ways to die, withdrawal from friends, saying goodbye, giving away important items, or making a will, and you will so often find the topic, if I die, and people talk about stuff of what will you do on your funeral or those kind of things, because people start talking about the death, and the moment when people talk about that, it gets uncomfortable. Then people say change the topic.
True.
So that's a sign of that. If people start talking about that, because it's also a morbid topic, nobody wants to think when you're dead, but we are currently dead alive. Taking dangerous risks such as driving extremely fast. I don't know if it's the Vida boys or displaying extreme mood swings. You will see people, we call it high from low within 5 seconds. You can be so happy. And that's one of the things that people don't understand. Not all suicides has been planned. 90% of suicides can happen within 10 minutes. You can sit in a crowd, you can be happy, you can laugh at them, but also, as we say, lonely. You can feel lonely in a crowd, and you can be alone, but you don't feel lonely. So that moment that you sit in a crowd, something can happen, it triggers some event in your past, you just stand up, walk out, next moment people hear that you commit suicide. Eating or sleeping more or less, I think this is a common issue, especially when it comes to also addiction. People eat too much, or they drink, or they sleep too much, or they sleep nothing at all. And you will see even using drugs or alcohol, people will do it more often. Remember, as we said in the beginning, that most of these stuff become a coping mechanism. Coping means to escape reality. I don't want to think about the pain. I don't want to think about all the stress. And one of the things also leading to substance abuse is the fact that when there's conflict or stress, we run to our coping mechanism. And I just use the example as a joke about the Vida boys, but you will see even that becomes some form of a coping mechanism, because the moment when there's an argument between a lady and a man, the men will go to the car and they work on the car. There's nothing wrong with the car, but it's a way of coping. Or I will take the car and I will just drive. It's a way of coping, and it doesn't mean it's a bad way, like in drinking or stuff. But we run to the thing that we believe is our coping mechanism. And the coping mechanism doesn't solve the problem. It just delays the problem. Because one thing that people also don't know about alcohol abuse is the fact that every time you use excessive amount of alcohol, it increases your anxiety. So short term, it soothes my anxiety, but long term, it increased that. And that doesn't help your problem at all. So that's some of the signs that we can see. And I think the moment when it comes to signs is the fact that you can see all the signs around you. And you cannot not pick up the signs. You cannot realize that there is a problem. So I think also must be intensive when it comes to looking at signs. And when you see one sign, like you sleep too much, don't ask people, are you suicidal? Sometimes we're just tired.
True. Yeah, thank you very much. And what can we as members of the community do in pursuit of saving lives?
I think so often, and we say it a lot over this weekend as well. The moment when people talk, we're not aware of this. And you will pick it up the moment when somebody dies, even in natural causes. So many people will tell you, that was why that person talked about certain things in the last week or the last month or whatever. So there's always signs. The fact is, we must become intentional. We must check in on our family members. We must check in on our friends, our co-workers, classmates, just to see if they're okay. And don't look at the face, because if somebody cries, you know there's something wrong. But not everybody is crying. We live in a society where people become actors, people wear masks, and we don't pick it up. The only way that you will pick it up is, as we call it, listen intentionally. When people talk, listen to what they said. Allow them to express themselves. The moment that I allow that, I will pick up signs. That's why we pick up signs. That's why we can help random strangers that reach out, because we realize in the way they talk. And then when it becomes something that suspicious, ask somebody, do you think about suicide? We're scared to ask that question. And when somebody said yes, ask them, did you plan anything? Did you have a way how you will do it? Because if somebody tell you, I will jump off the bridge, but they stay in a high building, it's a red light, because you know they can jump. And that's the way how we can help people, and also get to the point where we realize, but it's seriously. Because so many people tell me on Saturday when we had that march against suicide, we think people who talk about suicide just look for attention. And it's not that. Sometimes the big problem is people who don't talk at all is the serious cases. People who talk about that, reaching out for help. So we can pick up that. But when you look at behavior, when you look at signs, mood swings, anger, just out of randomly outburst, that's stuff that I can say, what's wrong? What's bothering you? And then you can get to the core thing. So the main thing is check up on family members, friends, co-workers, but also be intensive. We live in such a hurry. Make time for people. Make time to listen to what they want to say. And by that, we can find some help. So even when we get to that point, if you find something suspicious, ask your friend or ask your family member, can we go for help? If you not have the necessary skills to help them, the best skill that you can have is listening, and then you try that person to get to professional help. Sometimes we're not making the first step. help somebody? Can I phone somebody? Can we go and see somebody? Just to get through this. And go with that person if it's possible, to help them to find help. So the moment when they was there for the first session or the telephone call, then they will follow up on the next one. But it takes courage to make the first step. And that's where we can help them, to get them to somebody, find professional help. And if you know some of the skills, you can also tell people, can I go and find some help for you? Can I get some more detail? Especially what people want, what I want to say to people that help other people, you're playing with lives. So don't overstep your boundaries. If you know you cannot help a person, get them to professional help. It's about the life that we can save.
And where can one find help?
Yeah, I think the most important part, Lifeline, Childline, they do telephone as well as face-to-face counseling. So what's nice about Lifeline is most of the UNAM students don't always have Wi-Fi or data or credit, but you can call them. It's a toll-free number. So they don't charge you at all. You don't have to have any form of airtime. And the two numbers that's available is 116 and 106. So that's the two numbers that you can call if you feel to talk to somebody, 116 or 106, the old numbers of Lifeline, Childline. And there's counselors that can help you with that. Some other ways, we have a page on Facebook and Instagram, Suicide Prevention Namibia. That's also a page where you can reach out. That's a page where we put resources, where we put phrases that you can check in on yourself, checklists, everything that I talk about today, the statistics, the science, everything is on there as well. And the moment when you want to connect, even out of Facebook or Instagram, if you connect, you will get to my personal phone number, and we will see how we can help you. Some places over Namibia, we don't have counselors, but we do the best by seeing how we can get connected with people and also help them in the journey to recovery. Because we believe there's always hope, but hope starts with the first step, and you must take that first step.
Wow, definitely. Thank you very much, Wimpie, for the information. And is there any last words that you would like to extend out?
Yeah, I was assigned like the president that said in COVID, one life is too many. But we really, if we become honest, the professionals alone cannot solve this problem. It starts in the community, and the community is the ones who people go to. Not everybody have money to go to a professional, but at least talk to somebody and find a way to get to someone. One thing that I can also say for people up from 13 up to 30, the Be Free campus in Katatura has been open in the 1st of September. You can go there anytime up to 6 o'clock in the day. We at the stage where we also plan to get a contact center where you can contact people. But if you need to see somebody, you can just pop in there. And there's people that you can talk. There's psychologists, there's pastoral counseling, any way of how you can afford that. And there's even nurses and doctors and police and whatever you need on that campus. So please go and find help, because your life matters and we care about that.
Wow. Thank you very much, Wimpie, for the information. This is information, of course, that is not widely available. Much of this information is not widely available within the media space. And as you heard, if you want to call for help, you can call Childline, that is 116 or 106. That was Wimpie joining us today in studio, UNAM Radio 97.4. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Martin Nafuka, and this is the Activated Talks podcast. Till next time.